Are you the type of person who likes to sleep late? Have you ever been sleep shamed? That's what we're talking about on this episode of the Driving with Rob podcast. Do you get enough sleep? Are you the kind of person that likes to stay up late and then sleep in late? Have you ever been shamed for it? Like somebody says, you're so lazy you sleep all the time. You're so lazy you sleep half the day away. Well, it's not really lazy if you were up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And the bad thing is when you're the kind of person that stays up late at night, but then you have a job that makes you start early in the morning, or you have to get up early in the morning for school. So what do? You just go without sleep, is what you do. You just don't get enough sleep. Well, for years and years, I worked a second shift job. I had one job where I went in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and got off at 11. I had another job where I went in at 4, got off at midnight. And I always blamed the fact that I have a tendency to stay up late and then sleep late in the morning on the fact that I worked for so many years in these second shift jobs. But I really think it has more to do with your body rhythms. Some people just stay up late. Well, if you stay up late, you can't get up at sunrise like all the people that went to bed at 9 o'clock at night. You just can't. And even though I blamed it on all those years on second shift, I really kind of had a tendency to do that when I was a kid. I always had trouble getting up in the morning my whole life, and I would always stay up late at night whenever I could. And I'm sure there's all kind of psychological reasons behind why my body seemed to be on that schedule. And I was doing some reading the other day, and I came across this term, sleep shaming. Well, my whole life I've been told only lazy people sleep till 9 o'clock in the morning. Only lazy people sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning. Only lazy people sleep till lunchtime. And it was sleep shaming. I just didn't know there was a word for it. But apparently sleep shaming is a real thing. There was actually a term for it. People trying to make you feel shame over the fact that you sleep late. And like I said before, it's really not laziness if you were up half the night. You really can't say somebody was lazy if they went to bed 6 hours after you did and then couldn't get up at 6 a.m. But sleep shaming, that's where you try to make somebody feel guilty over the fact that they slept late. Well, maybe there's a valid reason why they slept late. Maybe they didn't sleep well. Maybe they had sleep apnea. How many people do you know who have a CPAP machine? This seems to be the latest fashionable cure for sleep apnea, is you put this CPAP machine on. And if you're not familiar with CPAP machines, basically what it is, it's a mask that you wear at night that forces air into your lungs or into your nose and mouth. You put this mask over your nose and mouth, and it makes you breathe, because that's the problem with sleep apnea, is you stop breathing in the middle of the night and you wake yourself up. Well, for whatever reason, if it's a sinus problem or your tongue is slipping back to the back of your throat and choking off your air and making you stop breathing in the middle of the night, that's basically what sleep apnea is. You wake yourself up because you stop breathing. And breathing is kind of important. And I remember listening to my grandfather in the recliner. You couldn't even call it snoring. It was like snoring plus. He would be sitting in the recliner and go, and then intermittently in between this snoring sound that he made, he would just stop. And as a little kid, that used to freak me out. You know, you've heard it. You've heard people do this before. And it's really kind of freaky when you're a little kid. Because, you know, I thought, is he choking to death? Should I try to wake him up? You know, should I go get grandma? Should I, what should I do? But he would always wake up. But the amazing thing is when Papa would be asleep in the recliner, And he would usually go to sleep during the Saturday afternoon baseball games. He loved to watch baseball on Saturday afternoons. And when he would start snoring, I would creep over to the TV and gently change the channel. You know, back in the day when you actually had a dial that you had to go click, 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 click to the next channel. So I tried to click it as quietly as I could so he couldn't hear me changing the channels. And of course, he would always wake up and go, "Hey, what are you doing? I was watching a baseball game." No, Papa, the baseball game was watching you. But no matter what your issue is, no matter why you have a problem sleeping at night, whether it's because you go to bed late or you just don't get a good night's sleep like ever, sleep shaming is when people try to make you feel guilty over the fact that you're sleeping late. And there are some people, and you know these people, that their biological clock wakes them up at the crack of dawn every day. Whether they set an alarm or not, invariably they wake up as the sun is coming up or even before the sun comes up. It's like the sound of chirping birds outside the window just automatically triggers them and wakes them up. You know, these are the kind of people who don't even need to set an alarm. They're just going to wake up 3 or 4 hours before everybody else for whatever reason. But I never was one of those people. I always had a problem waking up early in the morning. It was better for me to stay up all night than it was to get up early. Always was. It kind of still is. But I got to thinking about this sleep shaming thing. What it is it's actually passive aggressive. My favorite passive aggressive line is, "I am not passive aggressive, unlike some people." You know, that's passive aggressive. And passive aggressive sleep shaming is like, "You go ahead and sleep as late as you need to. The rest of us will get up and get the work done before you wake up. No, you obviously had a long night last night, so you just sleep as late as you need to. We might be back from the store by the time you wake up." You know, there's always some little extra little kick they got to throw in there, you know, for this passive aggressive sleep shaming. And, you know, sometimes they're not even passive about it. You're just lazy. I can't believe you're so lazy that you slept all day. Mom, I'm not lazy. I didn't go to bed till 3. Well, why did you stay up so late? Well, I don't know why I stayed up so late, but I did. I stayed up late. And that's why I can't just bounce up out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning when I only had 3 hours of sleep. But I really think different people have different body rhythms. Some people are just geared to go to bed early and wake up early. Some people aren't. But I wonder sometimes, too, if another issue with sleep apnea and people whose body clocks are a couple hours behind everybody else's, in a way I kind of blame Thomas Edison. Because, you know, back in the good old days, before there was electricity, there were no factories that ran a 24/7 schedule. There was no such thing as a second shift or a third shift. Because when it got dark, it got dark. There were no night lights, no street lights. If you lived in the big cities 150 years ago, the big cities had gas lights, street lights that ran on natural gas, and they would keep the streets lit up at night. But out in the country, you know, it wasn't so much a fact that you were getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to milk the cows and feed the chickens. You went to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock at night because there was nothing to do. There was no TV, no internet, no lights. You had to be a really, really determined scholar to stay up late at night reading if you had to read by candlelight or you had to read by lamplight, because there was literally nothing for you to do. And you would get so bored you would just go to bed. You would get so bored you would just go to sleep at 8, 9 o'clock at night, maybe even sooner than that. Well, of course you're going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning if you went to bed at 8 the night before. So I think a contributing factor to people who like to stay up late and then like to sleep in the next day really is that you have so many things that can keep you awake. You have so many things that can keep your mind churning till 2 o'clock in the morning. There's always something on TV. And especially if you have dish or cable, there's always something to watch at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can always look up something on the internet. You can always watch videos. You can always watch YouTube or TikTok at 3 o'clock in the morning. You can play video games with your friends who are also up till 2 o'clock in the morning. But 100, 150 years ago, you didn't have all that. People tended to not stay up all night because there was no reason to stay up all night. There was nothing to do. And I think especially for the younger generation, the late teens, even up through early 30s, this is the internet generation. The kids who grew up with the internet, the kids who grew up with YouTube videos and TikTok videos and stuff like that, they always had entertainment till late at night. And they tended to stay up late at night because after mom and dad went to bed, now you can do anything you want. And nobody's going to hassle you about it. Unless you get too loud and you wake up mom and dad, and then they're going to come in there and yell at you and tell you to turn that computer off and go to sleep. Turn the TV off and go to sleep. Turn the music off and go to sleep. But 100, 150 years ago, you didn't really have that option. You went to bed because you had nothing else to do and you were just bored. And I'm sure even during the time that I was growing up, and I'm obviously not in my 30s, we still had late night TV. Sometimes if mom and dad went to bed, you could keep the volume down and you could still catch Johnny Carson. And you're up till 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning watching TV. And one of the coolest things about Friday night was you could stay up as late as you wanted because there was no school on Saturday. And it really was kind of an independence thing. Because you remember growing up, mom and dad gave you nothing but rules and regulations all day long. But after they went to bed and the house got kind of quiet and kind of peaceful, now as long as you didn't wake them up, you could pretty much do anything you wanted, including staying up and watching Johnny Carson. And that was my big thing. I used to like to stay up and watch Johnny Carson. And on Friday nights, I think one of the local TV stations used to do horror movies, especially classic Universal horror movies like Dracula, the original Frankenstein, the original Wolfman. I think they called them Friday Night Frights or the Friday Night Horror Movies, whatever it was they called them. But it's like, even in my 50s, I have never broken that pattern. If left to my own devices, if I'm on vacation and I sleep as late as I want, stay up as late as I want, I still tend to stay up till about 2 o'clock in the morning and sleep till about 9 or 10 the next day. Well, and my wife, who is an early riser, is ready for a nap about the time I wake up in the morning. She's already been up for 3 hours. I've just never been that way, and I've pretty much always been sleep shamed because of it. You really should get up earlier. You really shouldn't sleep that late. You really should leave me alone and mind your own business, at least till I've had 2 cups of coffee. And that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. I appreciate you listening. Thanks for downloading. If you're not a subscriber, click on subscribe, click on follow, click on like, share it with your friends, share it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is you share stuff. And once you become a subscriber, you'll get a notification every time I upload a new episode. So thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye now.